Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Right Opinion, the home of a twat with too much free time. And today's topic is something that kind of jumped out on me. In what way exactly? Well, it was a fine Saturday morning. I was relaxing, putting my feet up, regretting my existence, like every other Saturday morning goes. And then, in a moment of spontaneity, I decided to check my Twitter feed. Spontaneity was rewarded because I saw no one else but the man himself, Keemstar, sourcing it up with a cheeky little feud with Marina Joyce, of all human beings.
There was danger in my life.
There was danger in her life! What is the danger? Okay, what is—
Suddenly, I had to check my calendar and make sure that we weren't back in 2016. Because for any of you who have been blessed with not knowing who Marina Joyce is, she's a beauty/lifestyle vlogger who became monstrously famous for a very brief moment a couple years back. If you blinked, you might have missed it. But if you had your eyes open, you might have been blinded. At the time of the drama, Marina had been doing YouTube for a few years. Her channel was performing okay, but it was nothing particularly special. She had been doing pretty much the same content since the inception of her channel. Mainly her unfiltered personality, trying to connect with her audiences, some games, some tutorials, and sort of content that would attract fans of a quite innocent demographic. She was very happy, a quirky character who was definitely not afraid of delivering wholesome messages through the platform, which, you know, sometimes we definitely need more of. However, all that was to change at the end of July 2016, a few days after she posted a video known as Date Outfit Ideas, a video that has now accumulated over 43 million views. Yes, that's more than any episode from the Shane Dawson documentary series, though of course, the video has been out longer, so there's plenty of time for good old Shane here to overtake her. But still, let me indicate how much of a movement this was in the moment. In one day, she received 35 million views on her channel. That's what we're talking about here. That can never be ignored. What was the source of this movement? Well, one we've encountered in the past. One of mystery. The question of the moment being, what is going on with Marina Joyce? Because in this particular video, Date Outfit Ideas, Marina is seen as being a tad zoned out.
Hey guys, so today I'm advertising Style You and I'm advertising their clothes. So this is me just advertising their clothes, and yeah, I love you guys so much. They're great for garden parties, weddings, nights out.
And this is for a brief moment what threw the internet into a frenzy, a delirium, my friends. And the commentators dashed for their microphones as the journalists reached for their keyboards to document the newest, weirdest internet sensation. People were asking questions, conspiracy theories were created. Was she kidnapped? Was she mentally ill? Was it all for attention? Even the police were sent to her house to ascertain her well-being, although people were still somewhat suspicious. After all, a lot of her audience knew what she was normally like, knew her old videos, and her energetic personality, a personality that had been swapped out for a rather unnerving individual. However, as mentioned, this was a brief trend, and with Marina withholding the explanation, providing there was of course one, meant that many people quickly lost interest, which is what leads us to November 2018, when Marina decides to release a video where she talks to haters in a rather formless video which jumps from one point about the other and talks about philosophies that are rather confusing. She doesn't like horror movies, being one of them, which, you know, fair enough. She goes out of the way to express how it's necessary not to reveal the nature of her condition. A debatable but respectable stance. Another theme that prevailed throughout the video was how she planned to stay out of drama.
Drama is not my cup of tea. Drinking tea.
So Marina, being the very anti-drama person, decided that she would maintain this philosophy by immediately having drama with the most dramatic person in the history of the dramatic world. Good old Daddy Keem here. You see, after this situation was brought back into light, Keemstar boldly claimed that the reason that all this occurred in the first place was because of drugs. Not any specific drugs, and honestly, if this claim was true, it might have been multiple drugs, for all we know. Now, when the initial situation arose, she was very quiet on the topic. She dismissed the theories, didn't really comment on it, and maybe that was for the best. Maybe it wasn't. We'll debate that in a bit. But this time round it was different. When Keemstar made these claims, this time round Marina responded differently, this time outwardly denying that they even had a shred of truth, which ironically caused the truth to be allegedly revealed. Enter stage left, Drew is sharing. A YouTuber weed enthusiastic who smokes weed. Yeah, he smokes weed. and probably some other drugs too. Anyhow, he made a video on the topic in response to this little exchange, where he, as a self-acclaimed friend of Marina Joyce, supposedly confirms Keemstar's claims that it was indeed drugs that were the cause of the extremely surreal moments witnessed in Joyce's videos. Marina then responded again in another video, prolonging this conflict, telling us the real truth, truth after truth after truth, and also promoting Buddhism, which is good, I think, and yet there was a sentiment of apathy. Sure, there were some people who were vaguely interested, but barely a fraction of the millions of people who clicked on Marina Joyce's channel on that fateful July day trying to work out what was going on in her mind. So I guess I want this video to be an in-depth retrospective of how the situation was set up, how it went down, and how much can be said about the culture. Because I do believe there is a level of exceptionalism with regards to what happened, and I think that it's time we investigated the extremely messy situation that is Marina Joyce, and see if we can find any affirmative answers to the numerous questions that will inevitably yield. Are you ready? Well, you don't have a say in this either way, it's my channel, you bellends. Let's dive into Marina Joyce. I think it's important to discuss the culture that Marina Joyce rose from, because generally there's this impression that Marina Joyce was just this nobody before the whole controversy, and although she was by no means anyone particularly famous, she had a decent subscriber base, and at the time, although her channel wasn't experiencing its most fruitful period, she was on the grind. And as creators, we all have good and bad months, so she wasn't wholly irrelevant, but she was experiencing a bit of a dry spell. However, I think we have to go back in time to completely understand the context behind this. YouTube has come a long way in the space of a decade or so. We have moved from this small platform where people upload their little camcorder projects where they would go around and do what humans enjoy doing, to this world where the content created has impressive production value and many viewers couldn't imagine themselves watching anything less. It's weird to think that there was a time when many of us settled for that. And that was the era that Marina Joyce arose from. Now, back in the day, a load of people sitting in their rooms, rambling about 10 things that guys say in romantic relationships intertwined with some odd skit, was appealing to a lot of people. Admittedly, I honestly can't ever see myself revisiting such content, and I can't really recall ever watching it in the first place. And honestly, I don't think many modern audiences can now either, but people still did. And I think that was mainly due to the realism of it all. I don't think that back then children were more easily satisfied necessarily. I just think that everything is relative, and we were enamored by the new developments on the internet. It all felt like a step forward for us plebeians. At that point you might ask, well, why didn't people just switch on the TV to see something that was better made? After all, YouTube feels like it went down that route of recent for that exact reason. Increasing those production values to compete with the TV. But returning to my previous point, I think that YouTube will always have something that TV will never have. Unless they set up a cable channel for the commentary community, of course, and in my opinion, that's just the earnest involvement of audiences. You always feel like you're part of something a bit more significant than just observing the old television. The reason that I think these bedroom-style vlogs were appreciated above anything else is because the style was undeniably unique, and people valued that over any nice, sharp production. This is the sort of environment that Marina thrived in. She came across as a very stereotypical teenage girl, the sort of person who was on one hand very lively and happy towards her audience, bursting into moments of spontaneity that would reflect a quirky personality.
So, just making this quick vlog, but whatever. Going to Marble Arch. Woo! Meetups.
Content that, although not laugh out loud funny, would endear a particular demographic. She'd talk about anything she cared about, and on top of that, there were videos that gave her a bit more depth than the average bedroom blogger. She was prepared to battle narratives. I mean, nice guys don't finish last is the original incel rebuttal as far as I'm concerned.
Nice guys do not finish last. To be honest, including myself, I'm pretty sure a girl will prefer to have a guy that treats her right. And if they don't, then you are looking at the wrong girl.
Marina Joyce destroys nice guy narrative with facts and logic. Anyhow, I think it was this nature to tackle some of the more sensitive topics, topics that were considered sensitive then at least, which definitely helped her maintain the fan base. But they weren't the main reason she blew up. No, ever since YouTube's deactivation of the statistics tab, one of the worst things those bastards did, we've been using the Wayback Machine on The Right Opinion to find out exactly what was popping at the time. And actually, it was her beauty videos that appeared to gain the most traction. Initially, it was her eyelash tutorial video. After all, one thing identifiable with her her old videos were her eyelashes. However, whereas some channels may capitalize on this, she appeared to choose to consolidate her position with videos that were more focused around herself, which has advantages and disadvantages. On one hand, you're missing out on an opportunity to make more videos like those and gain a load of subscribers, but on the other hand, you're organically creating a connection with the audience, an audience who are more likely to stick around with you in the hard times. This is important to remember for later. Marina definitely had a core dedicated fan base, even though she wasn't incredibly different from a lot of her competitors at the time. She did enough. But the times they were a-changing. You see, bringing back the earlier point, although there was definitely an appeal within her personality, production values all around the platform were improving. However, in the past, whereas having a nice, attractive style was seen as a sacrifice of the genuine down-to-earth character, people were expanding in ways that they could essentially settle on both. As technology became more mainstream, no longer did having a good, impressive camera compromise the boy or girl next door nature. These things were becoming normalized. Creators needed to evolve. Marina, on the other hand, had created a weird dynamic. Despite her tutorial videos being the most successful, she mostly focused on herself as a person, almost overwhelmingly actually. This tells me that I don't really think Marina was looking for relevance at this stage in her career. But that was a lot of the YouTube mentality back then. Many people just saw the platform as an outlet for themselves. That was perfectly natural. A lot of people might be mistaken to think that all of Marina's videos blew up because of what happened in 2016. However, it's clear that some of Marina's videos just had a habit of deciding they were going to do the numbers. And this is essentially what created an audience for her. It was much more the challenges and the topics. And her personality, although fairly innocent, didn't really keep a huge subscriber base coming back. Not that she appeared to care all that much, she was happy doing something that she was doing, with at least a somewhat committed fanbase. As said, the landscape of YouTube and content creation was changing very rapidly. We were slowly raising the bar of the acceptable standard for many production values. One thing that I found very interesting is that although Marina seemed to improve her style in some ways, she carried through a lot of the quirky energy that she had always portrayed to her audience. I watched the Draw My Life video, and it was very endearing in documenting the struggles that she faced. However, I noticed that it used the exact same music as the music in the Fateful video that caused this phenomenon, despite having over 3 years between them.
Hi, my name's Marina and I'm 16. I was a little girl with long blonde hair and blue eyes, and I was always extremely short. My hair reached my bum. That was fun.
Hi guys, so today I'm advertising Style You and I'm advertising their clothes. So this is me just advertising their clothes, and yeah, I love you guys so much.
It seems that Marina wasn't really changing that much as a creator, and normally this wouldn't be a problem. But equally, it meant that as a character, she began to stand out even more and more in a changing landscape that had its presentation a lot more organized and to the point. The sort of overly energetic, chaotic people were being replaced by people who were charismatic in their own rights, but certainly not to that level. Her character was always somewhat unique. Her character always had its quirks, and with this, it made it even more distinct. Not in a bad way or anything, but you'll see exactly why this matters with what we're discussing next. Now, I personally think that Drew may well be possibly being very honest in his video, and we might discuss his position a bit more towards the end. However, I do not want to premise his video as truth, as it's an extremely sensitive topic and Marina has her own side that she has presented indirectly in rebuttal, which we will also discuss later as well. We don't need it to evaluate a lot of the culture surrounding the whole incident. People didn't know then, and yet we still witnessed a huge frenzy in theories and thoughts. Whatever happened, happened. We can look at that. In the previous parts, we discussed a lot of various theories and concepts that on their own aren't particularly important, but as a combination created a situation like no other. And the job of this is to visit it and apply everything we know thus far, and put the pieces of the puzzle together before analysing it further. Marina Joyce is a spiritual person. Marina Joyce is a person who is quite out there. You can tell this from her videos, you can tell this from her tweets. I think that's really important to note.
I had a dream that God said he liked my skirt, so I wore it today.
These things don't just help build a persona, but they can really create a snowball effect when a particular situation goes down. One of the very identifiable elements of the Marina situation was that as a person, despite aging significantly since her first video, her mental outlook was still one of purity, one of innocence, and it takes a lot of energy to keep up that persona. For many people, her mood is not a default. I know it's certainly not for me because I'm a miserable bastard, but it's not hard to be that. Not from my perspective at least. So when I look at someone like Marina, I think to myself, how much effort goes into being that happy? Well, obviously, maybe it's not effort for her, maybe she just thinks like that. But because it's so out of the ordinary, from my perspective, it becomes identifiable when that mood has shifted. Because it takes a positive effort to create that. And that's what happened with Marina Joyce. She carved out a distinctive character that perceptively took effort, that when she started behaving in a way that was not typically associated with her image, it became very clear. Now, the video that vaulted her into stardom was date outfit ideas. However, going back, you can see that it was evident throughout the videos before.
And it was how to get a boy to like you, that video, but that's why the thumbnail was so rubbish on that video. But I wanted to let you know that was the truth, that's what happened, and I just wanted to let you know that the truth is that I haven't changed, so stop saying that I've changed because I haven't.
Many people pointed out that it seems she just had these moments where it looks like she had some sort of Vietnam flashback. The very jolting transition from her modelling to the point where she'd have a horrified look on her face. But if you know her older videos and her original videos, you can tell that her behaviour throughout the whole situation isn't a momentary thing. Those particular instances may accentuate that, but equally by watching her videos prior to all this transpiring, you can tell that all these videos are off in their delivery. She always had a bit of a muted approach to delivering sentences and so on, but the way she talks is extremely stilted and disconnected in these particular videos, and it's extremely noticeable. However, plenty of people have had spells like that in their content that have been overlooked, even people who have been happy themselves. We all have rough times. Why would this cause so much chaos when really it's just a person acting out of the ordinary? Well, it starts with a fan base. Marina Joyce by 2016 had a channel that wasn't really growing, was moving at a fairly stately pace, but she still had a continuous, dedicated audience who knew her personality well. That's important. As mentioned, while standing out amongst the culture, she was also familiar with her own viewers, and this creates a juxtaposition that will pinpoint any shifts in her behavior. Marina's persona is consistently happy, and her fans know that. Of course, she'll deal with more serious topics, but I watched a lot of old Marina Joyce videos, and every single one of them felt like they had a tone, with very little fluctuation in mood, and ones that did felt natural. I would liken the instant of Marina Joyce to the idea of climate and weather. Whereas weather might simply describe the sort of state of an environment at a specific time or place, climate represents a greater trend, a long-term outlook, which is why we care about climate change rather than weather change. As mentioned earlier, the video that caused all the distress was not the first one where she was acting strangely. In fact, she was clearly acting strangely in multiple videos prior. Difference is that this video was probably the one that dictated the trend, the one that told us that this is going in a direction, and one that we probably don't want it to go in. I don't know exactly how it started, I don't know exactly when it began, but it was almost certainly amplified by fans who knew that something wasn't quite right. It was not the Marina Joyce that they knew. Equally, what was mildly concerning was the actual conflict of the messages that Marina sent off. I've recorded videos when I've been happy, I've recorded videos when I've been in very dark places. One thing that I will never try to do is missell my mood. Marina seemed like she was trying to recapture that positive vibe that all her viewers were familiar with, but it just wasn't clicking. Also, keep note of the fact that she would regularly use the same music from a few years back and would hold on to these traditions in her production. And with this, it felt unnerving in the context with her out of place behavior. It's like she didn't even know she was behaving strangely. It became very weird. In the date outfit video, when she decided to do that twirl, it's almost as if when she turned away from the camera, she switched off, and then when she'd finished turning, she got to switch back on. Any fan of Marina's would know that the whole video, even when she was smiling, felt uncomfortable and forced. Yet it was these moments that helped add another layer that concerned the casual viewer as well. Whereas fans would notice the long-term changes, casuals would notice the volatile short-term ticks. From the first days of her channel, this tone had created a character, and suddenly it was being torn down, and you had a backlog of content to compare it to. With that backlog came a person who made us feel involved, a person whose life we saw in close quarters, as mentioned earlier. Unlike TV drama, people felt like they were part of this person's life much more. That intimate relationship finally mobilized a group of people who felt like they had influence. And they did. This was a swell of attention that felt galvanized. But that's still not the whole story, because as intriguing a character study as this is, it needed one more component to create the full-on hysteria that we witnessed over those few days. And the final spicy, saucy ingredient were the conspiracy theories. And not just any old conspiracy theories, because as plausible as the ideas such as drugs, attention, or even a mental disorder were, plausibility doesn't mean fun. And as mentioned before, people love chaos and mystery, and this was epitomized by the kidnapping theory. The kidnapping theory really did deserve some credit for keeping this in the public mind. Marina Joyce is an established creator. She's behaving extremely strangely, and she appears to lapse into moments of terror and anguish. And some of these YouTubers come round asking if she's been kidnapped with very interesting evidence.
In a recent Q&A video she made, someone asks her a question which prompts her to jump multiple times. As she does this, a sound of what sounds like a chain is heard.
What socks are you wearing? I'm wearing no socks. I am sockless. Wait, let me see if I can jump and show you. I can't jump and show you. I just tried really hard then, but...
Those are some pretty light chains, mates. Though some of the video was a bit more plausible, that bit is very questionable. It's a strange theory, the thought that a kidnapper would allow their freshly abducted victims to broadcast on YouTube is absolutely absurd. But at the same time, people love the fun that the mystery can provoke. And with the hashtag Save Marina Joyce movement, this all went viral. Really, it was the dark edge this situation had above all. The bruises, the fear. It was scary, but it was stimulating for people. Suddenly you had this unique amalgamation of so many different factors with so much history, creating this movement that fired everyone up, thinking about how Marina Joyce needs to be saved, the danger that she was in. Who will rescue Marina Joyce? Well, who did? You see, earlier on, I said that Marina Joyce had a tendency to avoid capitalizing on her successful content, and although this is more notoriety than success, the views were still excellent. However, she once again evaded any comment on what was going on specifically. Now, Marina has admitted herself that regardless of the truth, she was not in a good place in that moment. However, at the time, she was rather dismissive of the claims being put forward towards her by many content creators. Therefore, regardless of what it is, that's why I don't think she did this for attention. She clearly doesn't view YouTube on such a basis. She never intended to be that infamous. And when it happened, she almost let it die herself. Of course, she went on some interviews which provided her with extra publicity, but even then, they were mostly done with the purpose of playing down a lot of the theories put forward against her.
Is there anything you want to say to the people who have been saying publicly, and some sources who don't want to be named, saying that the change in behavior is related to drugs?
I actually promise, and you can see in my face, you can see in my eyes, I promise you that I'm not taking drugs. I would never do that, and mainly because of my viewers, and I really care about my viewers, so that's the reason why I wouldn't take drugs. And like that, I go to drug-free events, like I go to raves, but like this rave that I'm going to is a drug-free rave. They're not tolerated. Like the places that I go to aren't places where you can do those sort of things. So I think people get confused by what I'm doing in my life, by not knowing me as well as they should. But yeah, I don't take drugs because I just think that it's really unhealthy for you, and I understand just like I know what happens to those kind of people, and it's just very dangerous for you. It can give you mental health issues and stuff like that. It's not good for you, so I just don't recommend it to anybody, and I just wouldn't do that myself.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Not the most persuasive explanation, but still it seems that she wasn't interested in milking this incident for what it was. She was a committed YouTuber. As a creator, with a small but resolute core fanbase, she wanted to stick to what she knew. If she'd gone down the route of talking about the real reason why she was doing all the things she was doing, she may have caught the attention of the recent million or so new fans, but she may have done that at the sacrifice of her committed fans, who would then be faced with a different perception of a person who they had formerly had such a clear image of. This consistent character that even after the interviews, even after the admission that she wasn't exactly doing so well, that was still maintained or attempted to be maintained through the persona. And so it's clear that although at the time she wasn't being completely honest, and people may have been frustrated at the fact that she wasn't giving clear explanations, maybe it was for the best, considering the context of it all. A small proportion of the people who subscribed to her during the peak of the drama did actually stick around and provide her with additional traffic, but typically that considered of questioning her attitude, which in my opinion came through as her trying to rekindle that old spirit that she had before the incident. And honestly, I think people were looking too much at that with a critical eye. She was always a bit saccharine. She was always a bit over the top. She's just trying to get that again. The whole incident said a lot about how mystery drives the culture of concern. Once people kind of felt like there was nothing left to see, they just kind of moved on. I doubt many of the people who partook in the Saving Marina Joyce hashtag even gave her channel a second look, which is probably why she's lumbering around now with a load of dead subscribers. However, although the nihilist approach is easy and obvious in this circumstance, and there is a cynical narrative that can be created, I think that the Saving Marina Joyce hashtag was actually a positive movement for once. And I think that came down to the presentation. Typically, movement sensationalizing someone's suffering often amplifies the struggle that they may be encountering, exposing them to a media onslaught when really what they need is some therapy. It's not particularly helpful. And so on the surface, I'd be poised to criticize this movement as another media treatment of someone that's clearly beyond our understanding. However, the framing of Saving Marina Joyce actually put a pretty positive spin on it. On one hand, it did amplify what she was encountering to the outside world. But whereas sometimes a creator faces the brunt of all this, the tone of concern was one that almost pushed a sentiment of worry onto Marina that made her feel responsible for all these people caring, and actually gave her the motivation to change because people wanted to see her well. And not like this. When we experience hard times, I think that one of the driving elements that may cause us to do things that are irresponsible is the idea that no one cares about the consequences of what we do to ourselves. I've done stupid things for that reason. The thought that no one cares about you. Why should you look after yourself? The power of the Saving Marina Joyce movement was that it wasn't driven by vitriol nor by anger, but actual care. The idea that there were people who cared about Marina Joyce and her well-being, and suddenly she felt the necessity to actually improve. And I feel that's sometimes what lacks in a lot of internet movements, actual care for what is right, and remembering that at the other side there are human beings as well. Saving Marina Joyce actually encompassed some of the best of internet movements, and the thought that you can actually pull someone back from the edge is kind of heartwarming. And Marina even acknowledges that herself.
But honestly, even though people seemed to make it out like they cared, I never really got the full support that I deserved from those people. I didn't get proper help from anyone. Saving Marina Joyce made me realize that I needed to change some things in my life to make my life a lot happier, safer, and healthier. Because I was in danger in a lot of different ways, and that was the truth. So it's kind of not a joke when you say help me, because I was actually in danger and actually went through a lot of physical pain as well as emotional pain.
Who knows what might have happened if people didn't intervene? And so when this latest drama went down, it kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. Why couldn't we have a nice peaceful resolution with the idea that there is some kind of positive closure? Why was it necessary to have this Twitter flame war? And then the video where Marina attacks Keemstar for 12 minutes with her boyfriend. Which, you know, people can say what they want, but it was a bit of an aimless rant. If you want to expose someone, you need to have a bit more structure. It felt antithetical to everything that Marina had been promoting in her previous content, and ironically, it felt like for the first time she was willingly breaking out of her normal positive persona.
What is up, Germ Alert Nation? I'm your host, Killer Keemstar.
Shut up!
The thing about Keem's comments is that he was theorizing. That's what Keem does. You can only really lie when you know the truth. Even if he was right, even if he was wrong. He wasn't willfully lying. He's provided what he thinks happened. Now you can say that's distasteful given the context of the situation, and I might even be inclined to agree with you. But when you leave the explanation very open-ended, that's what's going to happen. People are going to make up theories and ideas of what's occurred to try and rationalize the situation. And that's what motivated this situation in the first place, for better and for worse. No one is entitled to an explanation, but if you don't give them one, they're gonna take guesses. It's fair to say that Marina did remove this video subsequently, saying that she would not stoop down to Keem's level. Whatever the reason, it was probably for the best. So when Drew's video came out, I was also left feeling rather conflicted. On one hand, it did somewhat bring closure to a lot of the questions surrounding her life and provided an explanation. However, given the fact that the premise that Marina was calling Keemstar a liar on was inherently faulty, it meant that that premise really needed correction rather than the actual situation. And it's not like she hadn't dismissed the claims made in other videos in the past. Not specifically like with Keemstar, but still nonetheless.
I simply don't want you to believe any of the conspiracy theories because none of them are true, and I can promise you that.
Marina's been evasive on it from the start, and to be honest, I don't entirely blame her. And so, in this instance, I still feel that maybe it was Marina's story to tell, though obviously it's relieving that there's a bit of clarity. Now, of course, she has released videos talking about her truth, the newest one that I'm going to have to include in post-editing as she decided to respond to allegations again, emphasizing her use of medication, but she was equally aversive in the video.
They don't know what happened to me, and it was a big thing that happened to me, and I just don't want to talk about it. It's my personal life.
And given the amount of contradicting accounts, it's hard to believe that a high dose of medication is the complete explanation, especially given some of the more audacious incidents. However, that's her explanation. Take it or leave it. However, I would encourage Marina to leave it behind. Let it go. Don't let it be everything that defines you. Making numerous videos on how you don't want to talk about it seems rather contradictory. And to be honest, we probably won't ever hear Marina's full story because the only person who knows the full truth is Marina herself. And if you don't want to talk about your experiences, then you don't have to. But what we do know is that Marina's story is embedded in a culture, one that was born out of the bedroom era and yet evolved into something so much weirder, where many people move forward in their style catering to their ever-changing audiences. Marina provided a capsule of the content that she originated from, maintaining the upbeat music and the saccharine tone, to the point where, when that evaporated, it was such a ground-shaking departure that it began a movement that no one could have ever anticipated the size of. Equally, there are many positives to take away from it, and although the recent conflict has maybe put an atmosphere of cynicism over the situation, one in which parties involved should know better, I hope that maybe we can look on the bright side of it and say, I guess everyone was alright in the end. Because, isn't that what matters? No. What matters is where the hell that Peruvian temple is. I donated good money for that, you piece of... There is the video, my friends. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the Marina Joyce situation, if you remember it? Well, hopefully I've jogged your memory at least. I'd also like to give a big shout out to the editors. They do a fantastic job. These videos would not be here without them, and the progress that they have helped me make is incredible. So please, I'm going to leave their links in the description below. If you have the time, go and check them out. Send them some love. They really do deserve it. Also, I want to give a big thanks to my Patreons. The generosity is really appreciated. I've got a few of them on screen right now. They have done a fantastic service. Much appreciated. I love you guys. You really do mean a lot. And the one individual Patreon I have to give credit to is Ryan, who is still donating $100 a month, and I do not know why anyone would do that, but thank you, man. It really does mean a lot. I love you. No homo, unless you want it to be homo, but then, you know, it's up to you. Whatever. Anyhow, I don't really think there's too much else to say. Thanks again for the support. It means a lot. I love you guys. And hopefully by the time this gets out, we'll be having a good time on the channel. Until then, however, I'm The Right Opinion, and I'll see you in the next one.